So let's start with my presentation. I would like to begin by emphasizing the importance of a deviant behavior of economic agents and the impact it has on our lives. Let's face it, all of us feel deviant to some extent in different situations. And because of that, we can behave inadequately and even cause distress to other people. The same thing happens in economics. When people do things that are illegal, abnormal, or just atypical. Deviant behavior is widely acknowledged in psychology, criminology, and sociology, but not in economics, where it happens very often indeed. Let me move on to giving you a few examples. We would all agree that committing suicide, killings, violations of social norms is considered abnormal or deviant. This leads me to a point that bribing a judge to get a satisfactory outcome of the trial, corrupting the teachers to get a better mark at the exam, is a deviant behavior too, which happens in economics almost on a daily basis. Let's now turn to what we consider to be a deviant behavior in economics. As a deviant behavior in economics, we consider corruption and all sorts of economic crime, the most common of which is the tax fraud. Now, what about positive deviations? They do exist as well. And though sometimes they can present themselves as negative deviations, later on they can become forward-pushing changes, especially in re-emerging economies. That is why identifying the kinds of deviations and studying them is a necessary step in building a more just and successful society.
So first of all, what is it I do? So I work in a field called mathematical genetics, and essentially what we do is trying to locate those parts of our genome, those parts of our DNA that causes disease. So if you imagine our bodies to be machines, then like any other machine, our bodies are prone to break down. So some of that is because we haven't been taking care of it very well. So for example, bad diet, lack of exercise. But some of the reasons are because our bodies is not built very well. And the reason why that is because there are faults in our DNA. Our DNA are the blueprints to our bodies, to the machines. So what we do is trying to locate those parts of our DNA that causes these diseases. So I've just listed some of those diseases that you might recognize. This whole topic is quite topical, quite relevant at the moment because a couple of days ago there was an article in the BBC on BBC News about obesity, and what that was about is that they found a obesity gene. That means that patients who have this gene is more likely to have obesity, irrespective of their lifestyle. And so that's exactly what we do. We're trying to locate genes such as the obesity gene. So that's pretty much what I do. And this is how I do it. So in a very kind of brief, simplistic view, what we do is we analyze two sets of genetic data. The first set of genetic data comes from patients that carry a disease that we're interested in. So for example, obesity. The second set of genetic data comes from patients that don't carry the disease. So they're the people who don't have obesity. And we'll analyze the two together, and hopefully what we'll find is that in the obesity data set, they all carry a set of genes that are not found in the other data set where people don't have obesity. So it's a very, very simple view. We're talking about huge amounts of data, and we're using statistics to kind of model analyze this data. So that's why we're in the statistics department. So that was how I do it, and finally why. Okay, so we're doing this because by locating the genetic causes of certain diseases, we're better understanding the diseases, and eventually that will hopefully lead to a cure or at least prevention for these diseases. So, for example, pharmaceutical companies, by knowing where the obesity gene is, will be able to develop drugs that negates the effects of this gene. So hopefully in the future there might be a drug that cures obesity or at least prevents it. And so that is why we do it. So that's pretty much the what, the why, and the what, the how, and the why.